One of the commandments that God gives us is to speak the truth to one another. I want to talk about this commandment from God and give some thoughts on how this should work and apply in our lives. We often hear people talk about, I'm just being honest, and people, we put an emphasis on being honest, and that's often good. But what we so often don't realize or acknowledge is that we are accountable to speak the truth, not just in being honest about whatever is in our hearts and whatever is in our heads, but we're accountable to speaking what is really true, what is really good and right and just and godly and righteous to people. And this is often where we fall short. We can see this in numerous ways where a person's life is ultimately telling you what is true. A person's life is, whether they say it just in their words, what they believe and what they live by is what they're telling you is ultimately true. What is valuable, what is meaningful. And all of us, we are accountable because what we do with our lives, how we view God is always speaking what is true of God and is speaking what is true for man. So we can see this, in numerous ways where, a person who is far from God, a person, is living after, let's say somebody living after being rich and famous. They're telling you that's what's valuable. They're telling you that this is what is true of God, which can be, even God doesn't exist. That's what's true of God. But all of our lives are professing what we believe is true. And so the work of the Bible is to bring us into what is actually true, not in this narrow-minded, cruel, oh, this is the truth of God and you gotta follow it, but really to bring us in to what is actually true. And so much of the correction that is supposed to be happening in our lives as Christians is to bring us into what is really good, what is really righteous and godly, and this being that change in our lives so that our lives are professing the truth. So many people go out and they talk about, going out and glorifying God and serving God. But the number one way that we are meant to glorify God is by having our lives sanctified and being holy and being aligned with what is really good and true. And so when we think about, speaking the truth to one another, one of the main issues that I see so often in the church is how so many people are trying to work for a lie. They are trying to work for what suits them, and they're honest about it. They're bold in speaking the truth, but they don't realize that the very things that they're valuing, the very things in their hearts are wicked and they're mean and they're cruel and they're speaking hatred. They're speaking a lie in God's name. They're speaking a lie of what is true. And the problem today that we often find in the church is that people are honest. They're honest, but they're not really speaking the truth. They say that they're speaking the truth. They're convinced that what they're believing is the truth, but they have not done the hard work of really coming into the truth. They're not doing the hard work of really coming into what is fair and just and loving and gentle and respectful. They're not doing that work. They're not doing the hard work, and they want to assume they're in the truth, but they want to believe that they're in the truth without all of that work. Without the work of really working for love and mercy and justice and righteousness in the heart. And being in the truth is about being truly aligned with what is righteous, what is good, what is fair, what is, giving equality to all people. And one of the specific things I want to point to today is how the wicked-heartedness in all people is that we are often working to believe lies at the expense of other people. And this is really one of the bedrocks of sin that exists in us. And this is really what we need to get at as Christians if we really want to be speaking the truth to one another. Speaking the truth to one another is not just, saying the truth with your mouth. It's having the truth within your heart. And what the devil loves to do, and what so many people love to do in their sin, is they love to twist the weak moments of other people in order to believe a lie. They love to twist, like the devil loves when you sin, to try and make you take that moment to a lie, to believe that God has forsaken you, to believe, these extreme things. And this is exactly what wicked-hearted people try to do. You take a person's moment of weakness, a moment of sin, and you try and not say that it's just this moment of sin. You try and make it mean something far beyond what is true. A really good example that I could give of this is the heart in so many people that were enslaving, Black people back in American history, is that they were so intent on trying to believe this lie of Black people being inferior to white people. So they would grab at any moment of these people being uneducated, of these people, having a moment of ignorance or, whatever it was. And it was always that trying to grab at that to make this lie true. And this is the cruelty of man. Cruelty of the devil that man walks in is trying to work those lies, trying to say something is true that is not true. You can see a really good example of this, today with the war between Hamas and Israel, where these people from Hamas, these Palestinian people, have done something very harmful and wrong. But the mindset in so many people is wanting to jump to this extreme and they're saying things like level Gaza, these extreme, broad sweeping judgments, as if there's not 2 million people that live there who are very different from one another and have real lives and real worth. That is the heart of sin. That is the deepest, meanest, hatred in human hearts, and it's the hatred of the devil to just do work for these lies, to say that a person who does this one thing means this huge extreme. And this works, in both ways, where, for example, somebody, is doing something kind of right, and often they want to go to this extreme of believing some high thing for themselves, to believe they're so great and good, without really doing the works that are, would accompany being really good and wise and just. We as sinful people love to believe in lies. We love to believe in extreme lies in order to dismiss and have contempt on others, to make ourselves feel like we understand how the world works, or, we're more valuable than others. But we also love to believe lies in order to feel like we are good and valuable without doing the work of being really good and valuable in this world. And this is the danger for every person in this world, is rather than grabbing truth, what is really true about yourself and others, and working in that truth and being faithful to God in truth, that love to God and that love to man in that truth, you go for lies. You go for lies about what you want to believe is justified for yourself, or that you're good without being good, that you're wise without being wise, or like believing in these oversimplified extremes to suit your own agenda, believing those things. And the truth is always the opposite of this. You don't believe that you're wise and you're good without doing what is really wise, without really working to come into what is good, what is fair. People love to believe that they're being loving and kind without really being changed into somebody who's loving and kind. It's that kind of thing. So for all of us to speak the truth to one another means coming into the truth. It means putting away these cruel, mean ways that we treat others, and we so easily have contempt and dismiss others to suit ourselves, and we so easily believe elevation of ourselves that isn't true, that isn't right. You're not really as righteous or good or as wise as you believe, but it's working to actually come into those things, and it's working at the same time to actually really assess your neighbor with accuracy, with honesty, seeing that a person may do this sinful thing, but maybe there is this thing in their life that is genuine. It's that complexity, and instead of going to these lies and working for lies, working for oversimplifications, it's working in what is actually true. The cruelty in the devil is the same cruelty that you can find in so many people in this world, where they are trying to take something that a moment of weakness or a moment of real sin and twist it into a lie. Say, oh, you did this, so obviously this is true. This is what abusive people try and do. They try to take a moment of this, the moment of weakness that you share, the moment of being sinful in one way. They try and make it this huge extreme. They try and say, oh, you're abusive, or you're toxic, or whatever. They try to take something that is partly true and overemphasize it for a lie. And this is the heart of so many people today. Even in the name of truth, that's what they're doing. This is the weapon of their arm, is that they're trying so hard to manipulate things to mean something cruel, to mean a lie to be true. And this is the work of the devil. All of this comes from us determinedly wanting our own wills and trying to force our wills onto others, rather than deal in what is fair for everyone and dealing what is truly good for everyone. We are just trying to force our own wills and lie and say that it's good and the outcome's going to be good and that it really is equal when it's not equal. This is the heart of wickedness. This is what the devil does. This is what sinful man does outside of God. So for all of us, if we want to be people who speak the truth to one another, then we have to get at those motivations in our hearts. We have to get at that will inside of us that is so intent upon getting what we want at the cost of others, and that heart in us that is working for a lie, wanting to force something to be true that is not true, but to really deal with reality itself, assess people honestly, assess ourselves honestly, and deal with God and others in that.